In life principles, I've explained some principles that help me do both of these things. I believe that because the same kinds of things happen over and over again, a relatively few well thought out principles will allow you to deal with just about anything that reality throws at you. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing well and ready for some more reading. Today, I managed to not have any sesame snaps, so we are safe from the bad throat that we had yesterday, but I still managed to get through, which was amazing. And I'll tell you later on how you can watch the replays if you enjoyed yesterday. We are reading Principles by Ray Dalio, and we are, I think, already over halfway. And we are at the next section of the book, which is Life Principles, putting it all together. And it starts with a little introduction, which is, in order to have the best life possible, you have to, 1, know what the best decisions are, and 2, have the courage to make them. Let's get into it. It is Thursday, second last day of the week, and there's still so much that we can achieve towards our goals. And today, let's learn some things that might be able to help us on our way towards those goals. Let's get into it. I'm excited. I hope you are too. Here we go. Life principles, putting it all together. In life principles, I've explained some principles that help me do both of these things. I believe that because the same kinds of things happen over and over again, a relatively few well thought out principles will allow you to deal with just about anything that reality throws at you. Where you get these principles from doesn't matter as much as having them and using them consistently, and that you never stop refining and improving them. So, for example, the world's best businesses have policies and procedures. And very often companies will write policies and procedures and then they go up on a shelf. Nobody ever looks at them again unless there's a dire emergency. And even if there is a dire emergency, they get looked at, but they are still the same from when they were created many years previously. What you really want is a system where you create your policies and procedures and you might look at them every 6 months and say, is this still relevant? Is this still going to work? Do we need to change the policy based on the experiences we've had over the last 6 months? Is our delivery system still as efficient as it could be? Could we make a change to how we deal with our suppliers in order to be able to have a better system for that? So we want to be refining and adding things. Dr. John Demartini, who some of you may know from The Secret and other of you may not know at all. He is a very, very interesting man that I would highly recommend you look into. One thing that he does is he writes a book, and this book is his goals and life. And he's written pages and pages, thousands of pages on this, and he will refine it constantly. He will read a part of his book of what he wants to achieve, and he will then implement based on what he's been reading and what he's been writing. So we want documents. Business plans are exactly the same. We want to keep working on refining, looking at them, reading them, in order to be able to come up with ideas for how we can do things. So our principles, the way in which we believe that we should live our life, is something that we should write down and work on constantly. Every morning I write down my goals, and I think, what can I do today in order to be able to achieve those goals? Well, I have the goals in front of me. This is something that I am working on. How can I implement that? What can I do in order to be able to make it run a little bit smoother? So really, the things that are important to us need to be written down, and we want to be able to work on them and focus on them and see how we can progress with them, and then we can live an absolutely amazing life. To acquire principles that work, it's essential that you embrace reality and deal with it well. Don't fall into the common trap of wishing that reality worked differently than it does, or that your own realities were different. Instead, embrace your realities and deal with them effectively. After all, making the most of your circumstances is what life is all about. This includes being transparent with your thoughts and open-mindedly accepting the feedback of others. Doing so will dramatically increase your learning. Yes, we want to be absolutely aware of reality. We want to be able to, for example, know that if we're going to invest, we're going to have to put the time in to learn about it. We're going to have to study. We're going to have a look at how past results have come about. and what that might mean for the future. But we also want to embrace a bit of unreality. We also want to be a little bit unrealistic. And this is where I'm going to disagree with Ray Dalio a little bit. Embrace reality and deal with it well. We want to challenge reality as well. So, for example, if we challenged reality that flying would be impossible for humans. Now, we can see that birds can fly, and we can say, well, in my reality, I'd like for humans to be able to fly. And we leave it at that and say it's impossible for humans to fly, because when you take the weight and wing ratio of a bird and you compare that to the weight and arm ratio of humans, humans will never be able to fly. And yet, interestingly, when you take the weight of a bird and its wingspan, and you take an airplane and its wingspan, it no longer lines up with each other. It no longer correlates. And the impossible becomes possible. So we want to embrace reality so that we don't work on something which is going to be extremely challenging and going to take a long time. But we do want to challenge that reality and find ways of making things that we want to have happen. We want to be able to challenge the world in order for us to be able to achieve our goals within it. And if it seems impossible, still look to see whether there is a way to make it happen. So this is something that I'm going to disagree with. And I think that you really do want to embrace, but also challenge reality. Because some of the greatest inventions, some of the things that you and I take for granted today, running water, sanitation, lots of these different things, cars, planes, trains, all of these things are only possible because of the innovations and people who challenged reality. So yes, we want to understand that if we want to invest, it's going to take some hard work, but we want to make sure that we find the quickest way, the most efficient way. We want to challenge the reality of having to study something for 20,000 hours in order to be able to get the great results. One of my heroes is Tim Ferriss, and he has, well, yes, he does. He has a TV series which I enjoyed and learned a lot from. Now, he has butted heads with people who always say that you need 20,000 hours to learn something properly. And one thing that he did in this TV series is he took various disciplines: drumming, rally car driving, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, open water swimming, business, and a couple of other things, language learning. And he took all of those and he said, how much can I learn in 1 week? Am I able to challenge myself to have a certain goal at the end that would seem impossible to most people? So, for example, with regards to, let's take, for example, the language learning. He said, by the end of the week, I want to be able to do a 5-minute interview in that language on live TV. And he did. Now, most people would say it is impossible to be able to learn a language in a week sufficiently to be able to do a 5-minute interview. He knew nothing about drumming, and he did a, with support, but he actually did the drumming for a song together with a famous band that he really liked, on stage in front of a live audience after only 1 week of learning how to drum. And so you really want to be able to challenge the status quo of what you think is possible. So wow, we've only done 2 paragraphs and we've already gone so deeply into it. Let's continue. But first, Ronald and Yuv and Kai Service, nice to see you all, and thank you everybody for joining. Fallen Mystique, I think, Fallen Fall Mystique, Boy Hiroyuki, and everybody else that's been joining. Great to have you all on the Bigo. So many people joining today. Wow. Asante Bean says hello, and Nick Public Inquiry Now says nice to meet you. And Kevin Hicks was the first person to join this morning. So thank you to everybody for joining. Let's continue. We are still reading Ray Dalio, Principles. Along your journey, you will inevitably experience painful failures It is important to realize that they can either be the impetus that fuels your personal evolution, or they can ruin you, depending on how you react to them. I believe that evolution is the greatest force in the universe, and that we will all evolve in basically the same way. Conceptually, it looks like a series of loops that either lead upward towards constant improvement, or remain flat, or even trend downwards toward ruin. You will determine what your own loops look like. Your evolutionary process can be described as a 5-step process for getting what you want. It consists of setting goals, identifying and not tolerating problems, diagnosing problems, coming up with designs to get around them, and then doing the tasks required. The important thing to remember is that no one can do all the steps well, but that it's possible to rely on others to help. Different people with different abilities working well together create the most powerful machines to produce achievement. You really want to create a dream team around you. And so that allows you to then take that shortcut of being able to take something that you're working on and have it implemented in a faster and in a better manner. If you're willing to confront reality, accept the pain that comes with doing so, and follow the 5-step process to drive yourself towards your goals, you're on the path to success. Yet most people fail to do this because they hold on to bad opinions that could easily be rectified by going above themselves to objectively look down at their situation and weigh what they and others think about it. It's for that reason, I believe, that you must be radically open-minded. And Ray Dalio talks a lot about being open-minded for sure. Our biggest barriers for doing this well are our ego barrier and our blind spot barrier. The ego barrier is our innate desire to be capable and have others recognize us as such. The blind spot barrier is the result of our seeing things through our own subjective lenses. Both barriers can prevent us from seeing things how they really are. The most important antidote for them is radical open-mindedness, which is motivated by the genuine worry that one might not be seeing one's choices optimally. It is the ability to effectively explore different points of view and different possibilities without letting your ego or your blind spots get in the way. Doing this well requires practicing thoughtful disagreement, which is the process of seeing how brilliant people who disagree with you in order to see things through their eyes and gain a deeper understanding. Doing this will raise your probability of making good decisions and will also give you a fabulous education. If you can learn radical open-mindedness and practice thoughtful disagreement, you'll radically increase your learning. And this is where I find the biggest challenges often lie with setting up teams, is the inability of certain team members to be able to be radically open-minded or to have thoughtful disagreement. So the more you can do this, the more the team will gel together, the more the team will work, the more everything will fit into place. So I have been on a lot of teams, and I've seen teams that have worked extremely well, and I've seen teams that have gone absolutely to pieces. One of the teams that I remember that fell absolutely to pieces was one of the teams when I was at university. And there was one person who was constantly working against us. And I ended up firing them and taking them out of the group. And they were just causing chaos in the group constantly. They were not open-minded. They only wanted to do it in their way and were really, really close-minded to anybody else's ideas. And it really created a lot of friction. People didn't want to talk to them. People didn't want to deal with them. And they also were very, very, really difficult. They found it difficult to have a conversation about that disagreement. So they didn't want to engage in a discussion in order to be able to see why they disagreed with us. They point blank closed down, shut down, and refused to discuss it. So you really want to be able to learn how to deal with other people. Yesterday, I saw an amazing video on YouTube, and it described a very wealthy man and how he bought a Bugatti. And he said that he wasn't planning to, but he found out that it was a really difficult process. And so he went to the Bugatti dealership and thought, I'm curious to see how this process works and whether I would pass the ability to be able to get to buy a Bugatti. So he went in and he obviously passed the test because he was the right kind of person. And interestingly, even though he didn't have to, he decided he was going to buy it and he bought one on the spot. And when you become a member of Bugatti, you are invited to lots of social events. So you have all sorts of different people. You have people who've come into money. You've got trust fund kids. You've got people who made money through businesses. You've got people who've made money through real estate. You've got money. You've got people who made money in lots of different ways. Some of them worked hard for it. Some of them got it without having to do any work at all. And some of them are a mixture of the two. And so all of these people get together every once in a while, and they have these social gatherings, and they go and have dinner in very expensive restaurants, and they do these different social events. They might go sailing, they might go and play polo, or do all of these different things. But at the end, they go for a dinner. And during this dinner, he was paying attention to all of these different people, and he noticed the difference between the ones that fit in and the ones that didn't. And he said that everybody at that table that had achieved success, they were all very good at one thing. They were all very good at storytelling. They were able to come up with a compelling idea around something that they experienced. They all had gone out and experienced and done really interesting things, and they were able to tell those stories of those interesting things that they had done. Very often, many of us are so busy with what we are doing that we don't do many interesting things. And then we're also not very good at telling the stories of the things that we have done that are interesting, or we're shy about what we've done when we were younger. And so this is another integral skill to being able to set up a really good team. It's being able to express yourself well, communicate well, tell stories well. And in this group of Bugatti owners, the ones who were good at storytelling would then tell their story, and the others would be able to tell an equally compelling story to match it. And that is what gets people on that equal footing in this case. So it was very, very interesting for me to learn about this yesterday. And it's something that I want to use as my motivation for today, and take that and implement that and see what I can do to use that to achieve my goals. And this is why I do the reading every morning. The ideas that come from the reading every morning are the things that I implement. It's the things that I've learned that I like to implement in order to be able to see what I can do to improve, to make my day better. And this is what we can all do. And this is why I love having you for the readings every morning. So I want you to know that I really appreciate you being here. So we'll leave it at that. And some really great things to keep in mind and ways to implement all the things that we've been reading about in the last couple of chapters. And on that note, if you missed the beginning of the book and you've only joined at today's chapter, you can see all the other chapters on YouTube. We've recorded all of the readings and put them up on YouTube. You can find them at the Passive Cash Flow Club on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, because that way you will be notified when we upload the new videos. But also, we answer your questions. So if you have a question about the economy, or about the book, or about the other books that we read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and The Art of Thinking Clearly, feel free to ask those questions by getting in touch on Instagram at business_team_6_official. And we'd love to be able to answer your questions. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Passive Cash Flow Club, because that way you'll know when the new videos of your questions have been uploaded, and you'll be able to know that your question's been answered, or that somebody's question's been answered. And who knows, if it's not your question, it might be a question that is going to solve one of your investing challenges, or answer a question that you have been struggling with and something that you've been wondering about. So look forward to seeing you for those. If you're interested in our networking nights, masterminds, and different other events, games, and simulation nights, get in touch and we'll send you the information about those. So just let me know on Instagram, business_team_6_official. And then we're going to leave it at that. I'm looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Remember to make the switch to unlock your rich, because there's a faster and more effective way of doing absolutely everything. And if you keep doing the same things, you're going to get the same results. So make some changes. It might not get you the results immediately. You might have to discover a couple of things that don't work. But eventually, you're going to follow and find the principles that work for you. and make that a living document. So make that switch, unlock your rich. I'll see you in the next video for tomorrow's reading. So if you're live, I'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Sydney time. And otherwise, have a great day. And I'll see you all again soon.